Welcome back to Bazooka Kickboxing and MMA. Today's episode, powered by Hayabusa, is all about creating angles with your hooks. An important aspect in fighting is learning to create angles. You don't always want to just sit there head to head with your opponent. That's a lot easier for your opponent to be able to block the strike. So if you want to land more successfully, you need to take these small little angles and set them up properly. Now, in today's video, you have to break it down into 3 parts. So in order to create an angle, you have to start with part 1, which is creating a shell. If I'm fighting someone who's moving, who's very versatile and dynamic, it's very hard for me to just get in there and to create the angle. As soon as I would step off on an angle, my opponent is just gonna move. So how can I get my opponent to stop, to freeze, to be able to create those angles? The first way, which I like to do, is using pressure. You'll see someone like a Mike Tyson or, in kickboxing, a Van Roosmalen, a Marat Grigorian is gonna pressure you against those ropes and then punish you for moving laterally, which is good pressure, which this way, they can't move, they can't defend, and if you get them stuck on the ropes, it's easy for you to be able to take that angle. The second way is getting a shell reaction from your opponent. So I like to do that with some sort of straight punches or a long weapon because my opponent's gonna counter. So if my opponent's moving by using jabs, a 1-2, a 1-2-1, 1-1-2, nice long snapping straight punches, I'm gonna force my opponent to block. As soon as my opponent blocks here, now I froze them for that quick moment, and in that quick moment, I'm gonna use my hooks to take my angle to the left or my angle to the right. So the key to creating an angle is all about getting my opponent to freeze in the shell. We see that a lot with someone like Lomachenko. He always gets you frozen in the shell. Next thing you know, he's hand pinning you, he's angle shuffling, and he's able to punch down the center line and get good results in doing that. So, getting the shell is part 1 in creating an angle. Now, once you have the shell, this is where we move on to part 2. This is the bread and butter of the drill. Now that you got a shell, and we can use any combination. So if you're creating this drill for a beginner, you can set that one combination. For example, a beginner might be a jab cross or a double jab, just enough to get my opponent to block to create that angle. If you're more in kickboxing or MMA, now you could even use kicks in that combination. So I might do double jab, low kick as my set combination, or some sort of front kick to get my opponent to block. So regardless the way you get the shell, which you can watch a past video, which I'll link above, you can watch how to get your opponent to shell. Now from the shell, my favorite way is the left hook to create the angle to the left. So by throwing a double left hook, I can get my opponent to shell, the hook comes off the guard, next thing you know, I'm on the angle, being able to punch down the line. If you're an orthodox fighter and you're using your lead hook to circle to the outside, by circling to that outside, it sets up my rear straight perfectly, as well as my body kick. Whether I'm fighting another orthodox fighter, I can still land nicely down the middle, or even better, this double hook to the outside works well when you fight someone in open stance. If I'm fighting a southpaw, I'm having lead hand control, that double hook is gonna get me to a safe angle to stay 1 away from my opponent's power, punch or kick, and 2, put me in a position to better land my rear straight and my right kick as well. So using the double hook to take the outside angle is the easiest, the one you will see most often, and the one that you'll probably have the easiest time doing, okay? But the second part now is how do we get to the right? That is a big difficult one with this hook. So again, after you get the shell, what I'm going to do now for the second one is using that hook to get my opponent really shelled up. Now, instead of going to the left, which is the easier way, I'm gonna go to my right. So the first hook is gonna make sure my opponent shells up, and then I'm actually gonna step with my rear foot. Usually we always wanna step with the lead foot. By stepping out with this power side, lets me create that right angle. Now I can get a perfect punch or hook down the middle. So when I take that right angle, I'm looking for the right hand behind the ear and that left hook right down the middle. So back foot out on that second hook is gonna help you create that angle to the right. So first hook center line, get my opponent to shell, and you may have set it up to the left already, so they're thinking you're going one way, but next thing you know, you step out with that rear side and you've taken that right angle to get those beautiful punches. Now using the double left hook to the left and to the right, are the two most basic ways that you can use this double left hook. But there's also advanced ways to be able to apply this application. The one way I like to do it is because I've been able to work my southpaw a lot more in my training. I'm actually, when I want to go to the right, I'm going to switch into a southpaw, use my lead hook, and then take that outside angle. So now, as a southpaw, taking that right angle, I have my left straight and I have my left kick. So deciding which direction I'm gonna go, I'll open up to that side. To the left, I stay my orthodox, or when I wanna go to the right, as I hook, switch to my southpaw position, and now I have a nice angle for my left straight and my left kick. So being able to fight both stances is very important if you wanna add this one to the double hook angle variations. The last one I'm going to discuss with you is using a simple diamond step. And when you do this diamond step, it's all about changing directions quickly for that moment. So as my opponent comes, I step off again with my back foot, but this time I'm gonna angle and I'm gonna be able to get my left hooks down the middle. So I'm basically doing a 90-degree turn, a quarter pivot, now to my right to be able to land the hooks down the middle. It's all about being able to shell my opponent up and creating the angles where I can't see the punches coming. If you're gonna really wanna knock someone out, the two best shots is one, breaking center line or going right by that ear where my opponent can't see it. So take those angles. Now the third part of it, after you've gotten the shell, part two, we've created the angles with the double hook. The third part is creating a follow-up. And depending on which angle you go and which variation you use, you're gonna find different setups work better than other. If you're more of a boxing style fighter or an athlete, then you might wanna take those angles and get inside, use your boxing. At that point now, when you take that angle, it should be all about inside power punches, looking for that finish. If I'm gonna circle to the other way, I'm gonna find different hooks, different angles, and my right hand might be a little bit more effective versus the left hook. So you have to go around and find your style of play. And it's also gonna depend on your opponent. If I might wanna stay long, use my kick fighting, and angle off the kick and exit. So you have to play around with your level, your style, but the key, the bread and butter of this episode is using that double hook. Hooks are a perfect way to be able to slightly change angles and hit your opponent at the same time. If you can hit and slightly angle, it masks the little angle, which means the punch that you throw from that angle is just gonna be that more effective. But after that one shot, the follow-up from those angles are important. An advanced fighter, after they follow up again, can continue to shuffle to continue to angle or create an exit. But once you take that right angle and you hit the big shot, after the follow-up, it doesn't stop there. You always need to create an exit. Once you've created the exit out totally, then the drill is finished. So you've added all three parts to make this drill successful. Okay, quick recap one more time for you. Phase one, in order to get a successful angle change, you need to shell your opponent up. You can use punches, kicks, usually long snapping punches to get this reaction. Once I got that shell reaction, it's time to use that double hook. Whether you're going to the left or you're going to the right, you're gonna mask the shot, create the angle to find the punch. Now step three, once you've got that shell, you've created the angle, landed that single punch, follow up with something. Change levels, mix in uppercuts, body shots, kicks and knees, make it your style. And when you're all done that inside work, if you get the knockout or not, make sure you create an exit with your footwork because there's a time where your opponent's gonna counter back. You need to be out of range. Make sure you keep liking and subscribing to Bazooka Kickboxing and MMA. Click the notification bell to make sure you stay up to date with the videos. And if you're enjoying the gear and the gloves that I'm wearing in these videos, make sure you check out HayabusaFight.com to get their latest gears. Make sure you check out their T3 boxing gloves as they're my personal favorite. That double wrist protection, the nice multi-layered foam in the hand, the big hand pocket design, just fits my hand perfectly. The T3 boxing glove at HayabusaFight.com. We'll see you next week here at Bazooka Kickboxing and MMA.